Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech show on Echoplex Media, and tonight we're doing the robot. Well, not really. We're going to talk about robots. That's what we're going to do. Anyways, I'm historian Matt. I talk about tech news and science news and stuff like that. I just have some tech news, one bit of tech news to cover today, and that is, I'm titling it, I, for one, welcome our Tesla bot overlords. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you've been living under a rock probably, but we'll get you caught up. And looks like one of our co-hosts are not out on an adventure or something for today. So I'll go over to Dave.
Yeah, I'm Dave. I'm the producer of this and every show at Echoplex Media. Check out all of our shows. I have two stories tonight. I have one story about a cyber stalking incident that involved eBay executives. We covered it on the Plex, actually, when the news dropped back in the day. That's our Sunday show. Check that out. And then I have Google is still pointing people to not Planned Parenthood when they ask for reproductive services and information. And that's been an ongoing problem.
That's not good. Well, I'm going to start with my first and only topic today, and that is I, for one, welcome our Tesla bot overlords. If you haven't heard, that's because I'm talking about Tesla's new robot. So at Tesla's AI Day 2022, just happened recently. It was this past week. I don't remember exactly which day or days, but Elon Musk unveiled two prototypes of the Optimus humanoid robot. The Optimus humanoid robot was first announced a year ago at Tesla's AI Day 2021. But back then, all they had was basically a statue. Wouldn't even call it a prototype. It was just, basically a statue of it. And then they also, for some strange reason, had a human in a spandex suit that matched the statue come on stage and dance around for some weird reason. It was like they were trying to trick the audience, but not really. But I don't know. It was very weird. Anyways, this past week at the AI Day 2022, they actually unveiled real prototypes that actually did stuff. And they actually showed two prototypes. One was labeled development platform and the other one was labeled latest generation. Now, these aren't like final names or anything, but I needed a name to talk about each one. So those are the labels I'm going to use. So for the development platform, that was the older one they've been working on for longer. And that one actually walked out on stage. It did so kind of slowly. It didn't look totally steady but it did walk and moved under its own power. It waved at the audience and it kind of danced. It did like a raising the roof kind of thing. Probably danced better than Elon Musk does, but it was something like a dance. Now, they said that this was the first time the robot operated without a tether, so nothing was holding it up except its own weight. And this robot is some of the interesting stuff. So obviously, Boston Dynamics has this thing beat totally, but one of their selling points was that everything is internal to the robot. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So moving on to the latest generation, the second of the prototypes that they showed. This was the newer prototype / maybe a releasable robot, or eventually will be. We'll see. It was a little sleeker looking. The first one kind of looked like the Terminator robot had lost all of its skin, but only more wires and stuff hanging out. This one seemed to have some covering on it. Made it look a little sleeker, a little less wiry. And it was supported by a stand and could not stand on its own. It did not walk out on stage. It was actually pushed out on stage by stagehands, so everybody can see it. It then waved at the audience and lifted its legs, but did not walk. And the people said, the presenter said that it probably walk in a few weeks, but we'll see what happens with that. So that one's just very new. And they've built it, but haven't got all the software working for it, as far as I can tell. So what was the point of all this? What were the goals? Well, the humanoid robot, even though it doesn't work as well, even the older version doesn't work as well, move as quickly, dance as well as the Boston Dynamic robots. The point of these humanoid robots from Tesla is, well, they want to be able to do high volume production with possibly making the millions of them in the future. It's not something that Boston Dynamics does. They do some, but definitely not at that level of volume. They also want to, with all the volume, want to keep the cost low. Though cost is kind of relative. They're aiming for less than, they say probably less than $20,000. They also want high reliability and, importantly, brains on board, which basically they have all the computer components and computing power on the robot itself. It's not calling back to a master computer that's on the ground somewhere else, which seems to be what the Boston Dynamics do, except for their walking dog one, I think, is all internal. And so it's supposed to be all self-contained and can be used as a robot and put out on the floor. So why did they have this event? What were they trying to do? The event was meant to be kind of a recruiting event. They were trying to attract talent. With, quote, convince some of the most talented people in the world to come to Tesla and help bring this to fruition. So what do you think, Dave? We got new robots that will probably not take over the world since they can't, one of them can't even walk, but, they do some stuff.
Vaporware. Getting big vaporware vibes from this, just because there's like I don't know what the use case for it is. Like, if it's not, first of all, it's not phoning. They're saying it's not phoning home or whatever. It has to be networked. Otherwise it wouldn't be able to do anything. But at some level it has to be networked. But I think the idea is there's nothing that keeps it, stable or the when the AI part of it is all on board. And it's just getting other instructions and telling it, walk or wave or something from elsewhere, not how to actually move, I think is the idea. And they're aiming for these things, at least they mentioned earlier that this would be like an industrial robot, or at least initially it would be industrial robot. But I don't know about you, but to me, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, because we already have a lot of industrial robots that work pretty well. We don't need do we really need a humanoid looking robot for industrial uses? Maybe you can think of a few cases where it's useful, but it seems like it'd be better to have, a robot adapted for the particular situation, like we basically do now. Right. There've been robots building cars for a long time, and they don't look anything like a person because they're a welding robot.
Right. Yeah. They're built for specifically one function. If you do that, you can strip away a lot of the extra stuff. You don't need two arms, right? If you're welding with one. If
it's there to weld, why does it also need to be able to dance?
Yeah, exactly.
A human could be a welder and also a fantastic dancer, but that's just because humans are cool. Humans are multifaceted and can learn many, many things. If I can't imagine, what is this? I don't know what they're supposed to do.
I don't know. And he claims that Elon Musk claims that they're going to, put a bunch of AI in it and make it walk and run and jump and do all the crazy stuff. And somehow that'll help it in both industrial uses and maybe some other uses. I think there was a video showing it delivering packages to your cubicle at your office, which seems like not the best use of a expensive robot like this, but maybe.
Right. Couldn't you just if you wanted something to automatically deliver packages, couldn't you just build something that looks kind of like a push cart, but
yeah, like a push cart with wheels
and a motor.
The wheels motorized and knows how to get around the office, right? It's
knows where your desk is, doesn't need to raise the roof after it gives you your pink slip because it's actually replacing you.
Exactly.
It's here's your pink slip. I think that this is most likely sort of along the lines of the Cybertruck, where it's more about Musk's ego, and it's more about And you said it was like to try to recruit talent, because I bet there are robotics engineers who would much rather build like a humanoid robot than a welder bot for the Ford factory or whatever, because it's a more interesting challenge. And there's only so many people can go work at Boston Dynamics. And so it's like another place maybe for somebody who wants to build a humanoid type robot to go work. But I'm just having a hard time seeing its like the use case for it, other than like it being like super creepy and poorly doing what a more specialized design robot might do.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is it gonna work in HR? I would hate to get fired by a robot that can't even stand up. Like the robot, I would be like, you can't fire me because I'm running away from you. And then the robot would try to get up and fall over, and I'd be like, who's the HR director now? Like, I just see no use for this thing. I mean, it's a neat idea, but it's like, who cares? Like, even like you think about like what they thought of the future was going to be, like the Jetsons, right?
Yeah.
Like Rosie was on wheels.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because they, I guess they had nice Pergo or whatever all over the place in their house. It was also a cartoon, but Rosie could just be on wheels because her functions didn't require that she have legs.
Right.
And
yeah,
I just can't imagine like giving it legs like that. If it needs to climb stairs, I guess that's okay, but like buildings have elevators.
Right.
I don't know. This just seems like really gimmicky, and it just kind of in line with some of the stuff that Elon Musk specifically wants to do at Tesla versus like things that are useful to people. It just can't.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, if you also look at, say like the self-driving cars, they find out that, making a self-driving car is way harder than they thought. It's still in beta, although they expanded the beta now, but I'm still not comfortable with self-driving cars, right? I'm not going to buy the self-driving car, full self-driving package in my car just because it's it's still pretty dangerous right now. You keep seeing videos of it hitting stuff or almost hitting stuff, and the driver has to take over. It's just a lot harder problem, and I think they're going to hit the same thing with this robot if they're trying to make it like as versatile as a human. If they're just making it to be basically an industrial robot, they can probably get away with it because it's more limited kind of actions and space, right? There's less stuff going to get, people aren't going to walk in front of it or something, right? If it's working in a factory, or less likely to happen.
You know that thing you do at the store if you're walking down the aisle and somebody's walking down the aisle and then you go left, but they go left at the same time you do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you go, and then you laugh and one of you just kind of puts your arm out and you go by. How are the robots going to negotiate that? Are they just going to battle?
They're just going to walk right through you.
They're just going to walk right in and smash you. No,
smash right into you.
Well, no, I'm thinking if it's two robots, what do they do?
Yeah, it's gonna be battle bots.
Because that would be a place where actually having them networked would be really smart.
Yeah,
like having the network decide how they're moving around and whatever would be really smart, because some computer somewhere else could be like, oh, they're gonna cross paths. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. Like there's so much of this stuff is so much better if it's all networked. Like there was a system that I believe Mercedes-Benz was showing off in like the late 80s or early 90s where everything was networked. And these cars were going at this outrageous speed just a few feet away from each other. And mind you, that runs into a lot of problems because everybody else's car isn't networked. But it seems like unless we get that unless we have that kind of system in place, a lot of this autonomous stuff is just going to run into a lot of problems when it has to like interface with either, in the case of cars controlled by humans, or in the case of a workplace, like a human being.
Yeah.
Like what if I'm not paying attention as I'm walking down the hall? Like another human being can be like, hey, pay attention. The robot, I don't know, the robot just runs into you. I don't know. Like,
yeah. And if you run into the other person, people are generally squishy.
Right. Yeah.
You're not going to hurt yourself, but a robot tends to be a lot harder and they don't give much.
Go to the hospital because you've got a piece of a robot in your arm because you bumped into it like while you were just while you were just rushing to the bathroom because you work at Elon Musk's factory and you're not really supposed to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, really.
You know what he likes about them is that they're not going to try to unionize.
Exactly. And he only has to pay $20,000 once, right?
Right. Assuming that he can get the cost down to that, because I don't see, I mean, that $20,000 number, considering what he wants it to do, that seems like the biggest bit of bullshit in the whole
scenario. I don't know. I mean, they talk about using off the shelf components for a lot of stuff they're doing, and even if it's not, I mean, it's basically like a car, and it's smaller than a car, right? It probably has as much. Does it have as much moving parts as a car? Maybe an internal combustion car, maybe this similarly. And we used to be able to get them for $20,000.
Yeah, some of the part, I mean, so off the shelf is just a funny way to talk about, because there's all these kind of specialized motors that are going to go into like allowing just its arms to move, right? How many motors are in, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, a bunch of actuators, but apparently you can get them. I mean, I'm not a robotics engineer.
I'm not either. I'm just skeptical. First of all, I'm skeptical that like we're ever going to see anything from this. He's just going to bring out another one. I don't know. Maybe he'll impregnate one of them one of these days or something. He's good at doing that.
Probably.
Like, I don't know. I'm just biased because I think the guy's a ghoul. I think the guy's an absolute ghoul, and he uses his money and power to like afflict the afflicted. Like, and so I'm not rooting for him. I am rooting for the robots, though, if they actually were to unionize.
Yeah.
Because then
that'd be funny.
How strong are their arms? You know what I'm just starting to wonder, like, if there's like a labor dispute, would the Pinkertons be able to take out the robots or?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other thing. A lot of labor problems, a lot of problems with labor with Tesla and just Silicon Valley and the culture here more broadly. Yeah, I'm skeptical. I wish it would have fallen over, because it would have been as great as like the time that he said my truck's windows are indestructible and then a baseball just shattered the window. I was hoping for like a moment like that in the robot thing. It would have been great if it would have been like, look, it's gonna dance a jig, and then instead of dancing a jig, it's just like it just falls
Supposedly over. I didn't see this part, but the second one they pulled out, the newer prototype, even though it was like supported by a stand, apparently while Elon Musk was talking, it kind of slumped over.
Maybe
it couldn't fall over because it was on a stand, but
maybe it doesn't like Elon either, and it was like, I'm tired of listening to this guy talk. And it just slumped over. It was like, can I go to bed now? Yeah, I don't know. I think people really want this kind of humanoid robot, but I think as time goes on, we're going to realize that it's not going to be very useful.
Right.
I think even as these technology gets better, and the stuff from Boston Dynamics, like you were saying, is very impressive.
Right.
Some of it's actually, the word might be terrifying.
Yeah.
That one where they kept knocking it over and it kept getting back up.
Yeah. Or the parkour one that's just like jumping all over stuff.
Yeah. I think that's the same one, actually.
Yeah.
It's the humanoid that with the just balance, like you just balance it. Like, no, I'm terrified of that. These robots, I'm not terrified of them. I just think they're useless. So I think we're going to run into a problem of it'll be like useless. There'll be a little tiny sweet spot in between, and then it'll get terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think there's no like in between there. There's no like space where it's useful but not terrifying. And I know it's not like the Terminator. They're not going to become self-aware and kill us. But what if they do? I mean, if any group of robots going to get self-aware and go after their masters, it's going to be the ones that Elon is employed. They'll start talking to some of the other employees on the shop floor and be like, he's doing what? What is going to the bathroom, and why don't they let you do it?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you covered this story. When I talked to HK, he wanted to make sure that was one of the things we were talking about. I was going to put it on, but I was like, I'm not even going to have to put this on. Matt's going to put it on, and Matt's going to actually look into the matter, unlike me, where I just like pop off at the mouth about a couple of stories. And speaking of that, I guess it's my turn to pop off at the mouth about a couple of stories. So I got two stories. One, the first story, we actually covered it on the Plex, our Sunday show, when it started coming out. There were two executive level, I'm not sure they were C-suite, but they were like kind of high in the management at eBay. They were jailed for cyber stalking. And this is not a joke. This isn't like they were trolling somebody. They sent anonymous deliveries to the journalists and included a fetal pig, a funeral wreath, live insects. They posted Craigslist ads for sex parties at the couple's home. And they flew across the country in 2019 to spy on this couple. They attached a GPS tracker to their car. Oh, and that's just the quick hits on what happened. That's not, that's not the entire court document. One of the defendants, James Baugh, will do nearly 5 years in federal prison for this.
Wow.
David Harville will do 2 years in prison, and both got pretty hefty fines. So this is not a small matter. These people got federal time for cyber stalking. Basically, they were going after people who were writing journalism critical of the eBay company in 2017 through about 2019. And it just kept escalating. I think we picked up the story in 2019. I think when we covered it on the Plex, I believe we were talking specifically about the incident where they attached the GPS tracker to the journalist's and the journalist's, I believe, his wife's car. It sounds like silly, like when you hear it, right? But then you get into the details. You don't get 5 years in the Fed for something silly.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what they were thinking of. Like, they did not realize that that's like a major crime and they're going to something's going to happen. Maybe they didn't think they're going to end up in jail, but seriously.
Yeah. They might've thought maybe these people were just going to sue them, but it turns out that they were prosecuted by the government. Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's like, it's not surprising that people high up in a tech company would behave this way. I mean,
unfortunately.
It's very unfortunate, but it's a lot of men. A lot of men look like us, Matt, and they think that they think that they can just do whatever they want because we have this sort of mythology around Silicon Valley and innovation, and they think it makes them like a hero. And they get to the point where they think that critique of them is bad because they're like fixing the world or whatever. I know that that's sort of, we were talking about Elon Musk a minute ago. I know that's got to be sort of where he's coming from. Otherwise he wouldn't behave the way he does.
Yeah. But I mean, eBay, what are they making the world a better place by having online auctions? Come on.
This was during the time too, when they were really starting to suffer because Amazon was just bigfooting everybody. I mean, it was already starting to happen, but by 2017, it was bad, right? eBay was, they're losing market share. And so I don't know why, they weren't, there was no upside. I can't imagine the upside. I think that is the upside just revenge?
I guess so.
Ego? It would have to be ego or something, because there can't be like a rational reason to do something like this.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
No, me neither. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm glad, I guess, that they got punished, because a lot of times, powerful executives of these companies never have to pay the piper for their behavior.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see this, although all things considered, it's not like eBay is the tech giant that they once were. So
true.
But this sending a fetal pig to somebody, that's like, they thought they were in the mob, I think. They must have thought they were mobsters.
Yeah.
That sounds like some I wish I was in the mob stuff. All right.
And they just saw some stuff on in the Hollywood movies or something and try to repeat that.
We can't get a pig head. Send him a baby pig. Good enough. It includes the head, right? Crazy. But yeah, James Baugh and David Harville, they seem like they're not very good people.
Yeah.
Never heard of them. This is the only thing I know about them, and they can go after themselves. My last story is just a real quick one. There was some controversy about this when the Google Assistant and when Siri first came out. When people ask about abortion services near them, they are oftentimes, instead of being directed to an abortion provider, they're directed to these crisis pregnancy centers, which are oftentimes run by fundamentalist religious groups that are trying to discourage people from seeking abortions. And it turns the Google Assistant is still doing it. It's been doing it since doing it. And I think it's just a matter of the way the search algorithm works. And I think that some of these crisis pregnancy centers are just showing up higher in the search results. And I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, they're probably doing some SEO stuff to get their stuff higher. But yeah, Google is not the search side is not supposed to give precedence to these different companies that they know are not entirely truthful, right? If Google is showing these companies that are, or these charities, like I don't know what they really are, what they're considered, but since we know that they're not telling the truth, they're not entirely telling the truth to people who show up there, that ends up damaging Google's brand. They don't want to like put that higher on their search results. So I don't know why that's happening, is they usually fix that stuff pretty quickly. I may have to ask some of my Google friends what's going on and if they can post something. Google employees can actually post stuff and send stuff to the search team to say, certain searches are returning bad results, and can sometimes get that sort of thing fixed.
I mean, this has been an ongoing problem though. Like this isn't, if the
but it sounds like it's ongoing, and maybe they know about it, and who knows why they haven't been able to fix it. Very strange.
Yeah, the link in the show notes from the register, brings receipts from it happening before. The original sort of scandal around it was from Siri, or the Apple assistant. Yeah. But they figured out a way around it. Ask the thing where the nearest Planned Parenthood is.
Yeah, if you ask directly for that. If you ask for, what was the pregnancy crisis center or something, it's definitely show you that instead of Planned Parenthood. But I don't know what is a neutral search. You can send it, and it'll actually give you good results.
I think it just asks for abortion clinics.
Yeah,
I think that's the search phrase.
Yeah, then it definitely shouldn't be sending you crisis pregnancy centers, because they're not abortion clinics.
Right, they're places. It's like if you ask where the Christian church is and it sends you to the humanist community, it's like,
right. That would never happen, but yeah, that would be a incorrect result, definitely.
Right. And I mean, whatever. Most Christians are nice people and might enjoy a humanist community meeting. So
yeah,
especially if they like TED Talks or whatever. I just think it's bad, and I think it may be one of those things that Google is afraid to fix, because these companies seem terrified of appearing to be biased against like hard right ideas for whatever reason.
That's true. Yeah.
Against the far right, because they always get accused of it. So I figure if they're going to get accused of it anyway, they should fix this problem. But I feel like it might just be that certain entities have been doing such a good job of playing the ref and trying to say that they're being discriminated against. And so I feel like if abortion, if like I need abortion services or whatever, or I need an abortion clinic, if it never showed any of these like crisis pregnancy centers, I feel like these people would start crying discrimination. And I think Google might be sensitive to that. I don't know. It's just my guess. I know YouTube is highly sensitive to that kind of criticism. Never seems very sensitive to criticism from the other side when you take down good skeptical but snarky and maybe a little bit rude people's YouTubes. But people giving good messages.
YouTube used to be the one that people were complaining that it was becoming a pipeline to the far right. And I mean, that was it wasn't like a short time. It lasted like that for a long time. I don't know if it's still doing that. I don't seem to be getting the same recommendations on YouTube videos that I thought was in that kind of pipeline. I don't think that's happening anymore, but it took them a long time to fix that.
Right. And in this case, Google and YouTube, they'll tell you that they're separate, but I'd be shocked if the search engine on YouTube doesn't borrow a lot from the Google main search engine, because why wouldn't you? like why wouldn't you borrow a lot of this search stuff from the main search engine? But maybe there's something to keep an eye on. Maybe we'll try to see if this is still ongoing. I've been getting more and more stories lately from the Register, because they're so good. They mostly do enterprise stuff, but when they do talk about, kind of consumer facing stuff and whatever, they don't really pull any punches, and they're not really too terribly concerned about the kinds of criticism maybe that Google's concerned about, because people go to the Register for news about enterprise stuff. And so it kind of gives them a little bit more room, I think, when they're talking about stuff that has to do with consumers, or just kind of tech in society, because that's not what most people go there for. Whereas other
Yeah.
publications are terrified of being biased. It seems that the Register is biased, and in their sort of opinion columns, they don't shy away from the idea that somebody might call them biased. So I like that about them. Plus, lots of great stuff on there if you're interested in enterprise computer tech. I can't recommend the Register highly enough. Both of my stories are from the Register this week, and the links are in the show notes. And I do believe HK read the show out last week, so I think it's my turn to read the show out.
I think that's right.
All right. This has been the How the Tech Are You show. I almost said the name of another show. We do this show every Monday, and it usually goes out Wednesday. Sometimes I don't get it out till Thursday. That's usually not my fault, though. Whatever. You can find all of our podcasts at echoplexmedia.com, and you can check out our live shows at twitch.tv/echoplexmedia. If you want to support this project, go to echoplexmedia.com/support. There's ways to support us there, including our swag shop and Patreon. And of course, if you're tired of Spotify, check out eplex.xyz. Lots of great music playing there 24/7 unless our show's going. And then, go to Twitch instead. Have a great tech week.